She stood there silently, clutching her coat, eyes darting from table to table. Everyone pretended she didn't exist. Waiters passed her by. Customers stared with judgment, and even the manager asked her to leave. But just when she was about to give up, he stood up, pulled out a chair and said, "You can sit with me." Backhand index pointing. Right, before we begin, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Kindness stories for more heart-touching stories every day. The snow was falling softly over the quiet streets of Chicago. Inside Dina's diner, warmth and laughter echoed off the walls. It was the kind of place that smelled like pancakes and brewed coffee, where holiday music played in the background, and families gathered to escape the cold. But not everyone inside felt warm. At the entrance stood a young woman, no more than 25. Her coat was to sizes too big and frayed at the sleeves. Her shoes were soaked, mismatched even. One hand held a crumpled dollar bill. The other clutched the strap of a worn leather bag. Her face was pale, lips trembling from the cold. She didn't speak, only looked. Tableau table, hoping, waiting. People glanced at her but quickly turned away. A woman whispered to her husband, "Don't make eye contact." A man pulled his child closer. The waitresses passed her like she was invisible. The manager, an older man with tired eyes, finally walked over and said, "Miss, if you're not ordering, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." She opened her mouth, but no sound came. She looked down at the dollar in her hand. Just enough for a coffee. Not a meal, not even a seat, apparently. She nodded and turned to go. But one man, seated at a corner booth alone, noticed everything. He had been watching quietly, sipping his coffee. He wasn't rich. He wasn't dressed fancy. Just jeans, a flannel jacket, and a weary kindness in his eyes. He looked to be in his mid-30s with tired hands that hinted at hard labor, and a deep scar across one eyebrow that told of old battles. Before she reached the door, he stood up. "Excuse me," he said loud enough for the room to hear. "You can sit with me." The restaurant fell into silence. Eyes turned. The young woman stopped in her tracks. He walked to her, pulled out a chair at his table, and gently nodded. "It's warm here, and they've got good pie." She looked at him, confused and cautious. "But I don't have enough." "I didn't ask for your wallet. Just your company," he smiled. With shaky steps, she walked over and sat down. The warmth of the seat made her eyes well up. She blinked the tears away. He flagged down the waitress. "We'll have 2 coffees and a plate of blueberry pancakes. Extra syrup." She leaned closer. "You don't have to do this." "I know, but no one else did." Her name was Emily. She hadn't eaten properly in 2 days. She had lost her job at a flower shop 3 weeks ago, then her apartment a week later. Her parents were gone. She had no one to call. She had come into the diner just to sit, maybe drink something warm, not expecting kindness, not expecting anything. His name was Noah. He was a construction worker, a single dad to a 5-year-old girl named Lily. She was with her grandmother that day, giving Noah his first break in months. He didn't have a lot, but he had enough to notice when someone had nothing. As the pancakes arrived, she hesitated to eat. He nodded again. "Go ahead. They're better warm." Bite after bite, Emily began a thaw. Not just from the cold, but from despair. For the first time in days, someone had seen her. Not as a burden, not as a threat, just human. They talked. She told him about the bookstore she used to visit as a child. He told her about the nights he'd read fairy tales to his daughter using silly voices. She laughed. He smiled. The diner faded into a blur around them. When they were done, she looked at him and said, "Why did you really let me sit?" He leaned back, eyes thoughtful, "Because a long time ago, someone did the same for me. When I had nothing, and I promised myself I'd return that favor one day." She didn't know what to say. So, she just whispered, "Thank you." And for Noah, that was enough. 2 weeks later, the diner looked the same, but felt different to Noah. He still came every Sunday ordering the same coffee and pancakes. But now he always looked at the door hoping. He hadn't seen Emily since that day. She had refused his money, but had accepted a warm jacket he offered when they parted. She told him she'd find a way to get back on her feet. He hoped she did. Then on the 3rd Sunday, as the snow melted into slush outside, she walked in. But this time, her coat fit perfectly. Her shoes weren't mismatched. Her hair was tied back neatly, and her eyes, though still tired, had light in them. Noah stood up before she reached him. "I got a job," she said, smiling. "At that bookstore I told you about. They needed help during the holidays." He grinned. "I knew you would." She sat down across from him. "And I got a room at a shelter nearby. Nothing fancy, but I have a bed. And I'm volunteering there, too." The waitress arrived surprised but smiling as she took their order. 2 coffees and pancakes. Make it to plates this time, Emily added. It's on me. They talked again about books, dreams, Lily's obsession with dinosaurs, and how kindness can grow like a tree if planted at the right time. I've been thinking, Emily said, about how we met and how the whole room looked at me like I didn't belong. I wonder what would have happened if you weren't there. He nodded slowly. You'd have made it one way or another, but I'm glad I could be part of your story. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small card. It's not much, she said, sliding it across the table. It was a handwritten thank you note. At the bottom, in small neat letters, it read, when no one else saw me, you did. Thank you for saving more than just a seat. He read it, and for a moment didn't speak. He looked at her, his voice thick. You deserved more than a chair. You deserved a table. She smiled gently. Well, I found one thanks to you. They sat for a long time after that, talking, laughing. Not strangers anymore. Just 2 souls who met on a cold day when the world had turned its back. And one simple act of kindness turned everything around. Sometimes kindness doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to be grand. It just needs a chair pulled out and a heart willing to offer it. Backhand index pointing. Right. If this story touched your heart, please like the video and subscribe to Kindness Stories for more inspiring tales like this. You never know who needs that one small act of compassion.